So let's start the webinar. So welcome everybody. And I'm Jennifer. I'm one of the product manager at Dynamicweb. And today I will be presenting Rapido 3.2, which we released for 2.5 weeks approximately. The Rapido 3.2 is running on a 9.7.2 Dynamicweb. And yeah, I will just mention the functionalities that we have implemented and some of the improvements of it as well. So the agenda for today is regarding e-commerce, where I will talk about the variant selector, the checkout, and some views for the logged in and anonymous user. Then I will talk about my customers' orders. Then I'll also go through a concept we have made called Printable Papers and how it's used in the digital warehouse. And then there will be something for the developers regarding blocks and components. And then I will just go through some general improvements that we have made on Rapido as well. And then at last, I will talk about the training and certification that we also have done within this release. So starting with e-commerce, we have the, when a product has variants, beforehand we have a variant selector with buttons, and this sometimes gives some problems when a product has a lot of variants because they're really filling a lot. So now we have the opportunity in website settings where you're able to select with a selector that we had before, but also drop down as well. Another thing that we have worked with is the checkout, because there are some different scenarios regarding what type of checkout you want, especially when you have an ERP connected to it. So what we looked at regarding the checkout is different kind of display. So we have something called editable addresses and read-only addresses and static addresses. And I will go through them one at a time just to tell you the difference between them. But the first one we have here is in website settings where you can choose editable addresses, is where we have both the billing address and the shipping address as editable fields, meaning all the fields here that you can see the user can type in and select. And this is for both logged in user and anonymous users as well. Next, we have the read-only addresses, and here, as you can see at the billing address, we have the information not as editable when you're logged in, but as a static address here. And also, when you do want to ship to another address, you can click that, and a modal will appear where there are some addresses you can select from if you want to ship to another address. But yeah, here there's it's just a selection of the addresses here, and you're not able to edit it at all. And of course, for the anonymous user, when they'll go into the site and go to the checkout, it will be editable addresses for them. Then we have static addresses, which reminds pretty much of the read-only addresses, but here with the static addresses, we have the same with the static information, but we are also able to, in the modal, add new addresses. We can edit existing addresses here and or delete it or just ship to the addresses. So you have more opportunities here rather than the read-only addresses that we have before. And again, with this one, we also have that when an anonymous user goes in, then it will be editable fields. So with this kind of configuration, it also affects what is in the customer center regarding my addresses, because if you, for example, select in the checkout that you only want to have read-only addresses where you can view and select the shipping, and then you're not able to add or edit shipping addresses in my address section here as well. But if you select static address, which I also showed before, then you're able to add new addresses and edit new shipping addresses as well, which I have in this picture. So they really align together regarding that. So within this checkout, we have some settings that we really required on Rapido 3.2 that needs to be checked. The first one is do not render user address in address loop. And this is because that in the billing address, there have been some problems beforehand that it had a mix of what is in the my addresses and the user address and so on. But right now, this takes the billing address. It only takes the one for the user address and then uses the addresses that is in my addresses, use that for the selection for shipping addresses. Then there is the setting regarding copy customer info to the deliver info fields if it's empty. And what it does is when we say use ship billing address as the delivery field, then it actually just take those kind of information and apply that as in the delivery address. And this is due to the receipt and email as well. So we use the right information there. Then going further regarding anonymous user and login user, and we will be looking at 3 different type of user. There are the regular login user, where they can see everything on the site, and regarding this, it's more what users can see on the shop regarding price, add to cart button, stock, and shipping information. So for example, the login user can see everything. They can see the price, the add to cart button, the stock. Then we have this new kind of user, which is also a logged in user, but in the user management, there is some setting called disallow ordering, which is actually connected to the setting in website settings, because here you can say, even though this user is logged in, I have a limited for what they can view, which is the second image. So I said, for example, I, Jennifer, have the disallow ordering settings set. I am not able to add this product, add the products to the cart, but I can see the price and I can see stock information. And the last one is anonymous user. And here, for example, the third image, I have said that they should hide all the information regarding price, add to cart, stock, and shipping. So this is more a way to decide what the user can see more granularly than it was before, because beforehand we only have that the login user can see everything and the anonymous user cannot see anything. So you can really set those type of elements differently as well for some specific users that are logged in as well. Next up is in the customer center, we have something called My Customers Orders. And this is when you're using impersonation. So for example, I, Jennifer, will impersonate Katrine Hansen, and I will purchase some product for her. Afterwards, I will purchase some product for Jens Jensen, and then stop the impersonation. And beforehand, in order to see what kind of orders I've made to them, I need to impersonate that person and go to my orders. And then afterwards, I need to impersonate Jens Jensen and go to my orders. But now, in the My Customer Orders is actually an overview over all the orders that I have made for those users I have impersonated. Then it will just give me this collected list of all of that, so I can have it in one view instead of impersonating multiple users in order to see, yeah, those views. That is still possible, but then I also have this option when I can also only see the things that I have done for them. So going further, we in Rapido 3.2 have worked with a concept called Printable Papers. And Printable Papers concept is to create a brochure So you actually just create a brochure, and with that you have a specific way to present some products and their product information. So here we worked about some concept about a cover sheet, page sheet, product list sheet, and data sheet. And I will go through one of those, and I will try to explain what you can do with them actually. So first off, we have the cover sheet, and with the cover sheet is where you can create either a front cover or a back cover, and you're able to apply title, subtitle, logo, and then set a layout position based on that. So for example, here I have selected upper left corner, but you can also set in the middle or in the bottom left, bottom right, and so on. And then you can add a background image for either your front cover or back cover. So there are some specific settings regarding that. Next up is the page sheet, and with that it's pretty simple actually, because it's only consists of title, subtitle, and text, so a description mainly, and is pretty similar to just a regular paragraph. So that is really simple sheet, but it gives some information about whatever you're trying to present. Then we have that data sheet, and with the data sheet, it's mainly used for showing a specific product and its product information. So it's much more detailed than the product list as we saw before in the quick intro. And in here you can set the layout for it depending on. You can see on the picture to the left that we have four different kind of layouts for that, and you can edit the color name, and you can also decide if there's some information that you want to hide, if you don't want to show price, or if there's the number that you don't want to show. And then we have some layout options regarding for the product fields and product category fields. So you can set some different colors for that, but also you can decide if you, for example, only want to show the product fields but not the category fields. So this one we also saw really shortly in the beginning, but this is the product list sheet, and it's actually just a list of products where you can select which product fields that you can apply on it, and you can apply up to 3. Well, we recommend that you can apply to 3 information and the list as well, but else, we'll just present the products, a lot of products in one list. And actually both the data sheet and the product list sheet is running on the product catalog and running in the index as well. And both of those sheet here we have with the data sheet and product list is that you can actually take the concept that we have made with the design layout with that for that template, and then if you want to, you can look at those template, copy it, and then make your own if you want to have a different structure for it or design for it. Oh yeah, and one thing I want to mention as well is that there are some font settings. So we have the fonts for the header and the body text as well, and it's the similar way that we are using in website settings where we have Google Fonts. But you can also apply your own fonts, but it will be through custom implementation, but it is possible to do that. So going further to digital warehouse, we have used the printable paper concept here as well, because as some of you that have used this, you probably remember that we have this tab called Generate PDF, where you were able to download a data sheet for this specific product. And beforehand, it was just a really simple template and didn't look very well, but we have tried to apply this new concept in here as well. So when you download this, it's actually using the things that we have used for the printable pages. So for example, in this section, you can see that we get this. I have made some 2 demo examples for the product details that is more technical, and then a more sale example where there's no product information of it. But these are the 2 that you can download for each product. Then when we go further, we have in the digital warehouse, you have the product list where you can add the products into our download card or our context card. And within that, we also have applied this new section called PDF catalog. And what it does is it actually uses the, for example, product list sheet that we had before. But what it do is that it takes all the products that you have added to the cart and then generate a product list PDF regarding that. So for example, this one. And if you want to, you can also create a new example for the product list, a data sheet, when you're using your the printable paper concept as well, if you want to have more selections in the drop down in here, the template. So this is for the developers regarding blocks and components or components, because we were already working with the blocks in 3.0 and 3.1, but we have worked much more with it here in 3.2. So we have translated our templates to use blocks, and now you have the opportunity to use extensibility points all over the site. And we have applied much more custom blocks CSS/HTML for all the different area that is available when you do custom codes. And this is really an advantage when you customize, because you can really separate your custom changes from our own Rapido templates as well. So you get an overview over your code, and things are much more divided in smaller parts as well. So you can add new block on our existing template, replacing existing blocks with your own block, and change the sorting of the blocks as well without going into our templates. And I think you really should look into this, because this is really important especially when upgrading, because what we do is that we have in our upgrade files is that we're not going to include any of these custom blocks templates, because this is your own, so you will they will not override it. So this is your area. And another thing that because beforehand we have the master template, which was really a lot. It was almost 2,000 lines of code, and it was so complex because there were so many things to it. And now we approximately reduced it to 200, because we have divided all the areas much more, as you can see in this one. And so you can really get an overview over the section that it belongs to. Another thing that we worked with is the components in Rapido. We started already in 3.1, but we have done much more now. So for example, on your website, when you say /components, you will see this page. And actually you can use the new components package for improve an easier implementation, where you can reuse some of the components that we also use in the template, but it also helps you to use it, and also to extend existing components. So you have a design that is more aligned, and you're using all the elements that also are in website settings. For example, if you're reusing some of our buttons, then we have some different values if it should be the primary, secondary, or tertiary buttons that it will retrieve those information from. And as you can see here in the components page, on the left side we have all the menu where you can search of different kind of information regarding what kind of components that we have here. And all of these components that we have in this site is actually in use, so you can also see them, how it's implemented in our templates. Else on the left side, you can also search for a component, so you get a much more specific search for it. And then we have the implementation example, so you can copy that, click copy to clipboard and apply it in your template. And in order to see what is this component actually consists of, you can just look at our markup example, as you can see right below, the markup result of it. So you can get more information about that specific component. Oh yeah, another thing is that remember when you uses the custom blocks template and start beginning to use components, please read our information about which DLLs to include, because this will give you proper code hinting and it will just make it much easier instead of getting the syntax out of it. And we have, if you haven't seen it yet, then in the doc site we have Rapido and development. And here we gives a lot of example regarding blocks and components, and how to, and we also have some code examples of how to do it. And we will keep continuing to provide more information regarding components example, but else you can also see some examples that are in here. But we, in the next couple of weeks, we will try to add more examples in the components as well. And if you guys think, oh, there's really missing an example of this or missing information about that, please contact us, and then we will improve some of these things, because we also want to hear from you guys what kind of information that is missing regarding blocks and components. And also, some of you have asked me before if this is available for everybody. And well, yeah, it's a combination of the site. When you say /components, then it will appear, but it's actually just a template added on a page. So if you don't want it to be public, then you can just make it unpublic. So going further for general improvements in Rapido. Let's see. Yeah, general improvements. We have in the product list regarding the grid view, we have applied a new option. So you're able to select 6 columns in a row, as you can see here. Beforehand, we only have 2, 3, and 4, but now you're able to select, so you can see 6 products in a row. And the same we have done for promotion products. We have added, beforehand it was really fixed because we have 4 products you could see at a row, but now we have added so you can see 2, 3, 4, or 6 products at a time, which and these promotion products you can apply in any pages, the landing page or in the about page or wherever you want to present or promote some specific products on the site. Then we have the mini card layout. We applied so you can have the option that you don't show any mini card layout. So when you click on the mini card icon, then it just give a quick redirection to the checkout instead, which can be useful if you have many products in the cart and you just want to go directly to the checkout. But else you still have the other options as well if you want to have a regular drop down, or overlay, or a panel as a mini cart. Then in the profile page, we have these buttons before regarding edit profile, change password, and manage addresses. And if you have if this is not relevant for your customer to edit, then you're able to hide these buttons as well as an extra configuration in the eCommerce tab. If you, for example, have an integrated solution, then maybe you don't want your user to edit that information. Another configuration is for the impersonation bar. I don't know if you guys remember, those of you have impersonation of your site really had a really ugly yellow bar on the top, which we really could not edit unless you did some coding. But now we are, you can select between 3 different kind of layouts, the bar, and then 2 different kind of selection regarding a little modal that is popping up here in the right corner. And you are also able to edit the background color and the font color as well if you want something that matches more to your site than just the yellow color that we had before. Then we have added Open Graph, because beforehand when sharing a link to social media, you didn't really get any title or information or image about the link that you were sharing. So on the page properties, when you're sharing a page, you can add those kind of meta text or title, description, and image as well regarding how you want to present this kind of link. And of course, if you sharing a product, then it will show the specific product image, product name, and description of that as well. Then we have something about how we render the product when you have a product from PIM using, because it's possible to combine some products to a family. And there have been some issues about how it was presented on the product list and product page as well, because those variant buttons that were there before didn't really make sense, because it was not a proper variant, even though, and this is for those who uses PIM, by the way. So we didn't show it properly regarding that. So right now, if a master product or a product variant comes from a family, you don't show any variant options until you go into the product page. Then in website settings, we have something called product family, and you can have this render family variant as a list, which reminds of the one that we also have at regular variants. So here you can add a list and then some information on that as well. But you could also now mix that the product family you have, you can render as a variants as the list, while you have all the other regular master with their proper variant renders as a drop down, as we saw in the beginning, or a selector. So you can differentiate those two. And then we have some extras. So in Rapido 3.2, we have worked regarding training for Rapido, and this is about getting started with Rapido, setting it up and configuring it as well, and how products are working with that. And then there is the certification that matches that as well. This is really helpful both for those that configure it, but also the developer as well, because it could be really nice to know what's configurable and what's not. And then besides that, as mentioned earlier, we also have the Rapido blocks and components documentation guide, which I also really suggest for the developers to read much more at. And please give me some feedback as well, and look at the components document site on the specific site for that. Else you can read much more about the release notes as well, and you can download the Rapido 3.2 packages and then read about the upgrade guide. And a new thing that we are starting with as well is that those of you that are signed up will receive some Rapido newsletters that will be sent the next couple of months, which will be a weekly email. And we will be sharing some tips and tricks and maybe some documentation that you're not up to date with. And this is all just to get more knowledge about Rapido in general and try to keeping you updated what's going on and what has been updated on the doc side. So hopefully you will receive some information about that. And then I have a question from Ivan. He mentioned, what is the practical use of impersonation? Well, impersonation is used when, for example, a seller needs to purchase a product for some other users, but instead of logging in with the user's name and password, the seller have a list of user that he is allowed to impersonate, he's allowed to make an order for. And that's why so when he have those lists, he can say, oh, I can log in as a Katrina, or I can log in as Jens, make that order for them. And then, just make an order for them at all. And I don't know if that answers your question, Ivan. Oh, he's not answering right now. Do you guys have any question elsewise? No? Well, then I don't think I have more for you. After this webinar, these slides will be sent to those that have signed up for this webinar. So thank you very much.